Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, which I hope you're going to find very interesting. Because today we're going to discuss an important topic that deserves closer attention from us all than it has received to date, and that is the human spirit and how it shapes our world. A very important subject. Now, as we all know, it's no secret, our world is a product of our consciousness and thoughts, which today has reached an all-time low in most aspects of our lives, and we all know that. Our world is a total mess today, and the questions that most people are asking is, how can we come out of this toxic mess? How can we? How can we restore our world to becoming the peaceful and fulfilling home that we desire for ourselves and for future generations? The answer, my dear friends, lies in reviving our human spirit, individually and collectively as a humanity, such that its values prevail in our daily lives. That, I believe, is the answer. Now, to achieve this, and I believe we absolutely can if we work at it, we need to understand our human spirit and the powers it has to foster positive change. So let's start with the basics of the human spirit. What does the published literature say? It says, number one, the human spirit is defined as the non-material part of our humanity that encompasses self-awareness, emotions, intellectual knowledge, creativity, and personal passions. It is the essence that distinguishes humans from animals and provides us with free will, enabling us to be conscious of our actions and inner workings. The third is that this spirit also harbors the presence of God in our hearts, as described in the Holy Bible. And fourthly, additionally, the human spirit is characterized by qualities such as the capacity to sense the world, the will to investigate and discover, and the ability to think deeply and with conviction. So the above points are a good starting point definition of the human spirit. Now, before we dive deeper into the subject, the first question I would like to ask ourselves is, are we consciously aware of our human spirit? Are we consciously aware of our human spirit? Secondly, do we spend enough time in contemplation of it? Do we endeavor to explore our spirit and recognize the role it plays in our day-to-day lives and beyond? After all, our spirit is what we really are. So how well do we know what we really are? We all have perceptions of ourselves that are crafted by experiences and inputs from the material world. But what is our true reality? The reality that underpins each one of us as a human being. The reality that collectively underpins us as one humanity. These are important questions to keep in mind as we try to develop a better understanding of the human spirit. Okay, so let us take a closer look at some key aspects of the human spirit. The first is that at birth, each one of us is absolutely innocent and pure. So if we want to know the human spirit, we can find it in its purest form at the point of manifestation and birth of a child in this world. So that's where we need to start looking for answers. At birth, the consciousness of a child is like a clear slate, with universal writings on it that are common to every human being. They're universal. Writings that are of a pure reflection of the child's spirit nature. Now, what is spirit nature, you may ask? The spirit nature is what I call our true consciousness, that includes all the core elements of our human spirit, pure and untarnished. After birth, the clouds of materialism and their illusions begin to shape us as beings, and we become a product of their illusionary inputs. But we start off pure and unstained. So when we look at human nature in this material world, it is a mixture of all our positive and negative traits, which are derived from our human experience in this world, and this is no secret. Therefore, my dear friends, we start life here with our spirit nature and then develop a parallel material nature through our journey. So each one of us embodies both these natures, and both these natures are expressed in our consciousness. In other words, we start here with a spirit consciousness and then develop a material consciousness, and both are present with us at all times. So this is the baseline. Now, this is true for us as individuals and also collectively as a humanity. And as I said before, our material consciousness is a product of our experiences in the material world, which tend to be the opposite in principle to our spirit nature, because we live in a world of contrasts. And we have discussed this in other webinars, these contrasts. Good and bad, happy contrasting with sad, kind and cruelty, generous and miserly, light and dark. Our world is one of endless contrasts, which provides us with the perfect learning ground to grow as souls. And as the famous saying goes, you cannot recognize light unless you have known darkness. So we need these contrasts. Now, to understand our two key natures, the spirit and material, let us imagine we're standing in front of this very special mirror. Let us call it the worldly mirror. So the real you, with your spirit nature, is standing before this worldly mirror. And what you see coming back at you is a projection of what the material world wants you to see, experience, and learn from. So this mirror is a training mirror if we look at it objectively. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Let us consider some examples of spirit nature and their corresponding material projections in the training mirror. Example number one. The spirit nature embodies love, pure, unconditional love. We are all born with this love, and it is an inherent part of our spirit. Many of us have experienced this love and also project it in our daily lives. We do. However, our mirror is reflecting back events of an opposite dimension to this love, where the unconditional part of our love has been dropped and replaced by experiences of conditional love that is transactional in nature, keeping in mind with the norms of this chaotic and illusionary material world we live in. But deep down, each one of us is fully aware of this special love that resides at the core of our being, and we know it is there. On a harsher level, the mirror also projects hate, which is the opposite of love. And we live through this experience of hate, and we suffer its scorching flames. Therefore, when we as individuals or as a humanity are able to revive our human spirit and place it in the driver's seat, our pure, unconditional love will once again be able to permeate and dominate our material consciousness. And this is how we can change the world for the better. Let us look at the second example. The spirit nature harbors empathy and compassion, and each one of us at our core is empathetic and compassionate. And when you reflect on this fact from deep within your empathetic and compassionate nature, you will experience a familiar peace that acknowledges this truth. It's very personal, but you will experience it. And at that deep level, it is not your ego speaking, because ego is a swimmer of the shallowest part of the ocean. That's my belief. Deeper down, egos drown, and the truth, however, remains ever evident. So when you go down to that level, that peace that you feel, that happiness that you feel, is actually you recognizing your spirit nature. So what does the worldly mirror show us here in this context? We see and experience the forces of neglect, selfishness, and indifference towards the suffering of our fellow beings, for example, be they in our immediate spheres or also globally on a larger stage. At an individual level, an example that I would like to share with you is of a world-famous photographer who won the Pulitzer Prize for feature photography for his image in 1994 called "The Vulture and the Little Girl," which was taken in March 1993 during the Sudan famine. This picture was of a malnourished little girl, she could barely have been 2 years old, crawled over in front of a vulture that was waiting for her to die. Very powerful picture. But question is, why would someone think of going for a picture rather than trying to save this girl from the vulture, or save this girl from this malnutrition, do something for her? This is a sobering question. Why would you think of going for a picture and not follow your natural spirit nature instinct to go and embrace and hug this girl and take her to safety? Why? And to make matters worse, he gets a Pulitzer Prize for his picture, revealing a deep absence of empathy in our world. Now, we can always debate this issue because there are two sides to every story. But the simple point I'm trying to make to you is that what does it tell us about the chronic indifference that we as a humanity are fostering? Shifting to the global stage, consider how our world has reacted to the mass killings across the globe in the recent years, as demonstrated by our news and social media. It all started with a strong empathetic reaction from all corners of the world, which then retired into bold indifference over time, showing us that we are living amidst the exact opposite of our true empathetic and compassionate nature. Now, if we were to revive our human spirit, it goes without saying that our individual consciousness and that of the world at large would switch from selfishness, neglect, and indifference to empathy and compassion, an absolutely welcome shift. The third example is kindness. Our spirit nature is very kind in essence because it comes from the premise of the universal truth, which says, I am you, you are me, and together we are everything. I am you, you are me, and together we are everything. So kindness is an inherent hallmark of our true nature. Yet, the worldly mirror projects the very opposite through cruelty in small and large ways, as well as in blatant and subtle forms. For example, cruelty towards one another, towards the helpless, towards animals and nature, and towards masses of people globally. And the list goes on and on and on, and you're all familiar with it. Even for a child, cruelty gets etched into his or her material consciousness very early on. Look at the playground. It is one of the cruelest places on earth. So even at an innocent level, for example, we tease and make fun of others for their weaknesses. And while it may seem funny and harmless, its hidden essence is basic cruelty. Look at how killing is portrayed in our computer games and in our different forms of entertainment like movies and shows. You know, killing is fine. What is the subliminal foundation of a society that takes killing so casually? It is pure cruelty. And we don't even realize this, despite supposedly being the most intelligent species on earth. So, restoring kindness as our foundation is of critical importance to us as individuals and to us as a humanity collectively. We need to bring back to surface the pure kindness that resides in our spirit nature, and that's how we can restore our world. The fourth example is peace. Our spirit nature is pure peace. Peace is the anchor and cornerstone of the human spirit. And each one of us is endowed with this peace. Hence, when we live through conflict and turmoil, we deeply crave for this peace. We pray for it. Many of us experience the peace of our human spirit in contemplation and meditation, or when we are in nature, or in those special moments when we are all alone with ourselves. It is ever present with us, this peace, and it's beautiful. When we are at peace, we shine with brilliance. When the peace is absent, we are gloomy and shrouded in dark clouds. Today, our entire world is crying out for peace. The mirror has shown us and continues to show us the ugliest dimensions of conflict and war that are so far away from our true spirit nature. I believe that true peace can be restored if we all come together and revive our human spirit and let it prevail as the norm in our consciousness the way it is supposed to. The fifth example is generosity. The human spirit is free of all greed. It is pure generosity because it knows no different. The human spirit in itself makes up the river of abundance. It doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from the human spirit, and the river of abundance flows through us humans and through nature. Hence, the flow of all forms of resources in our world, tangible and intangible, are a natural expression of this spirit. When we peel away the layers of dirt of the material world that has accumulated on our consciousness, we discover that we all and our fellow beings are pure generosity. That's what we are. Most of us have felt the happiness that comes from giving without expecting anything in return. It is priceless. This happiness comes from the pure generosity that each one of us embodies. It is also a hallmark of our spirit nature. Now, in response, the worldly mirror shows us diverse experiences of greed, such as actions by a few that cause scarcity of resources for numerous people, or powerful people and nations that steal the resources and lands of others with impunity, or greedy merchants and companies that hoard massive amounts of food crops such as grains to yield higher prices. It shows us policies and economic systems that encourage greed, despite its impact on the environment and climate. And this is why, my dear friends, we are witnessing increasing economic hardships, famines, and suffering in our world today. it is no surprise. These are largely human creations rather than natural phenomena. Once again, it will take the revival of the human spirit of generosity to correct a lot of the ills of our current world and its modus operandi. The next example, the sixth one, is unity. The human spirit is based on pure unity because it represents our higher nature, which comes from a single and common source. Like the scriptures say, we created you from one soul. And the human spirit is indeed a facet of this one soul. It is like the ray of the one sun. So at our core, we are all unity, we are all one. And when material influences pile into our consciousness, we become fragmented, disunited, and at odds with each other, creating horrendous and chaotic events which are in fact diametrically opposite to our true nature. And this is what our worldly mirror is showing us today. And if we consider it as a training mirror from a positive light, it is calling out to us to recognize how far away we have strayed from our true spirit nature. Its messages are getting increasingly louder. Through the harshness of the experiences it is sending our way, it is calling out to us, saying, pause. You have gone way off course. Step out of this spiral and revive your human spirit and find your way back with wisdom and strength before you destroy yourselves. That's what this training mirror is telling us. And so far, my dear friends, we've only touched on 6 examples, and there are plenty more, which we don't have time to go through today, but examples are of aspects of our spirit nature, our humility, creativity, wisdom, justice and fairness, and a lot more. But the message so far, I hope, is clear. And it is time for us to come together and work towards reviving our human spirit. That's the message. And this is the core theme of the global meditation we will be holding in Şanlıurfa in Turkey on the 9th of May 2025 at the 12,000-year-old Göbekli Tepe temple, which is the oldest temple in the world. We all have been marveling at Stonehenge and the stones and the rocks, and that's only 3,500 years old. This place is 12,000 years old. And Şanlıurfa is also known as the city of the prophets. And it is believed to be the birthplace of Prophet Abraham and other very blessed souls that have come to our world with messages of nurturing our human spirit and living with the codes of ethics that enrich our experiences and growth as souls during our short stay here on earth. So this is a perfect fitting place, spiritually and energetically, to work towards revival of the human spirit, both individually and across humanity. We have shared information with you on this meditation, and basically a small group of us, a maximum, absolute maximum of 40, will travel to these sacred sites in early May, including the birthplace of Maulana Rumi, and then participate in the global meditation that will be joined by people from across the world, from wherever they are. So those of you that are unable to join us, please do join us from wherever you are on that day, and we will be sending out a lot more information. If you are aware of people that can organize local meditation groups, let us know. We will send them packages so that they can lead meditations in their own places. So we believe that just talking about this revival is not enough. We have to act on it together. And today we will do a short practical meditation on reviving the human spirit. And it is a brief preparation step for the upcoming global meditation, and also for regular practice in our daily lives, because this meditation also is very powerful and healing in nature at its core. It's cleansing in nature. Before we move on to the meditation, there are a couple of spiritual aspects of the human spirit that I wish to touch upon, which may help prepare our mindset for embarking on this important process of renewal and revival. Remember these two words, renewal and revival, because these are two hallmark words that describe the era that begins in 2025 for us as a humanity and beyond. Renewal and revival. We are in that stage of hope. We are in that phase of change, and we are all going to be tools and instruments of this change. So, my dear friends, the human spirit from a spiritual dimension is deeply rooted, firstly, in service. It is a core aspect of our spirit nature. Now we're talking from a spiritual perspective, service. To serve one another, to serve nature and all its creation, to serve our Creator. We often hear the humble phrase of a devotee to his or her Creator that says, "I am your humble servant. I am your humble servant." On the surface, when you hear this phrase, you visualize a servant and master relationship. But there is a lot more to this phrase than that. If we dig deeper and realize that our spirit nature is one of true service, then we automatically assume our role of service to everything. We serve to make things better. We serve to ease the difficulties of others. We serve Mother Nature by caring for her and protecting the environment. These are all aspects of service that emanate from our spirit nature. So our true service role is a lot more than the typical servant-master vision, because in the context of our Creator, He is present in everything. So when we serve everything, we are in essence serving Him, both within ourselves and within people we may never ever meet or get to know. These are essential aspects of the service I'm talking about. True and pure service for our world today and for generations to follow. So remember, from a spiritual dimension too, service is embedded in everything we do, everything we think about, every manner in which we react. The second point I wish to make is that the human spirit represents our spiritual dimension, the dimension of each of us that is eternal. It is not temporary like the material dimension. And this dimension is ever present with us in every moment of our material existence. But sadly, for most, it has been buried away deep down under the material consciousness, concealing the very best part of each one of us. We are all spiritual beings first, and we are spiritual beings that have manifested in this world for a short period to experience its contrasts from our true nature, so that we can learn from them, so that we can grow from them. And a wise soul once said that you yearn most deeply for something when you have lost it. You yearn most deeply for something when you have lost it. And this yearning is one of the most powerful motivators of each human journey. Based on this profound wisdom, it makes sense as to why we are in this material world. That makes us live through experiences that are the opposite of our true spirit nature. We lose it along the way, and therefore we yearn for it, and therefore we yearn to bring it back. And that's a key spiritual message. This is why, if you look at yourself, and look at all of us, we all embody a powerful yearning that drives us to seek the truth that we are. Some become aware of this at an early stage, and others much later in life. How often have we heard people say they feel a deep void, but don't know what this void is to fill? What is it there for? Well, I believe this void comes from the loss of our true spirit nature, living with our true spirit nature. And the only way to fill it is to work towards discovering our higher truths through contemplation, pursuit of wisdom, meditation, and spiritual search in all its forms. And when people talk of discovering true happiness, it comes from having found the truth and having filled the void. And such people become less interested in the material world because they have now come to know it for what it really is, an illusion of contrasts and opposites to our spirit nature. They have come to realize what the worldly mirror is, and hence they do not fall for illusions anymore. And when they reach that stage, guess what happens? The best part is that this mirror, being a training mirror, now begins to show them events and experiences that lead them towards higher levels of spiritual growth, towards helping them fulfill their spiritual quest for enlightenment. So in the end, the mirror we have learned about today can be our best tool for growth ever. So with that, I would like to conclude the insight I wanted to share with you. And I would like us to take a few minutes and practice this short meditation for revival of the human spirit. And like I said earlier, it has a very powerful cleansing and healing energy and healing aspect to it. So I hope you will find much fulfillment in this meditation. For your convenience, we have placed this meditation in a separate video clip on our YouTube channel.